Hi family, how are we doing this morning? Now, if your husband is unsaved, don't force him. Don't force him. Don't force him to come to church with you. Don't force him to attend church meetings with you. Don't force him to do anything that you do as part of your religious practices. Whether you're highly spiritual or not, don't force him. And I'll tell you why, okay? What you don't want is to have a case where you force your spouse, your husband that is, to come to church with you. And truth be told, he's just like a shell in the church. Just an empty shell, because his mind is not there. His spirit is not there. Nothing internal is there, just a shell, because you forced him to be there. Remember, if God does not touch the heart of that man, he can't come. He can't. If the Spirit of God himself does not draw that man to himself, he can't come. Your force will not allow it to happen. It will not cause it to happen. You persuading him with all these talks, worse, you getting miserable, you getting frustrated to the point where you probably even start to use curse words in your expressions as you tell him how frustrated you are. That will push him even further away. Don't force him. The only way anyone can come to God is if God himself calls the person, or may I say, draw the person. John 6:44 tells you. It says, no man can come to me unless he's drawn by the Father. You see that word drawn? It's very powerful. It's from the Greek word helko, Helko, with an accent over that O. And helko is the same word for drag. Now, when you drag something, you give it an intentional pull. You pull it with a force. You pull it with an intention. Except God pulls a person with an intention. The person just can't come. Your curse words will not do it. Your use of expletives will not do it. Your negative expressions will not do it. I'm telling you, in fact, they will just turn the people further and further away. You're not praying the prayers you ought to pray for these people. For your husband. Instead of forcing him, come to church with me. For what? He can't identify with what you're saying. He does not even understand what you're saying. He don't get it. There's a reason he doesn't. Instead of forcing him, start praying for him. And there's a specific prayer that you ought to pray. Pray that God will touch his heart. Pray that God will draw him, or may I say, drag him by his Spirit. Some of us were crying to God, but we ain't saying anything. You're crying, but what are you saying? So much emotions in prayer, but what are you really saying? What is it that you want? Sometimes we're asking God for the wrong things, or for the things that should come after the person is drawn. First and foremost, let your prayer be, Lord, touch the heart of my husband. Touch his heart. Because truth be told, if your heart wasn't touched, you couldn't come. I can speak for myself. If God did not touch this heart would have never be turned to him. I told you. Nobody could force me to go to church. None. I had such a dislike toward church that not even a funeral I would attend, because I did not want to step into that place that I deemed as a place full of hypocrisy. I couldn't go. It didn't matter who it was who was inviting me, whether a friend, a best friend, a family member. They could not. And that's it. That's where your husband is at. You can't force him to go to that place. God himself had to intervene and change my heart. Did you know that he's a heart regulator? Did you know that not only does he heal conditions such as issues with your organs, your blood, etc. Did you know that God is also capable of turning the hearts of men, causing men to no longer have a heart of stone, but instead have a heart of flesh? Start steering your prayers in that direction. If you want him to change, ask God to touch his heart. Because truth be told, maybe the both of you were unsaved when you came together. And God drew you first. Now he's left. And you wish that he would be up to speed with you in your spirituality and Christianity. But unfortunately, as life is lifing, that's just not how it goes. Your duty is to pray earnestly and make supplications earnestly for God to touch his heart so he can come. In the meantime, don't force him. Let him alone. Pray for him in secret. And if you want, if he's your husband, pray for him however, whenever you want to. But don't force that man. Because the outcome that you are expecting, you will not get. Because when his mind nor his spirit is participating, it makes no sense. You don't want to carry a corpse to church. You don't want to carry an empty shell to church. A lot of us, that's what we do. We feel so good, we bring the man, but true, you don't know, the man is not there. His flesh is there, but he ain't there. His mind ain't there, because he doesn't want to be there. What are you going to do? See, in that moment, you feel good because, yes, he's in church. But if only you could pray the prayer, God, touch his heart. Cause today's message to bring conviction. You ain't praying those prayers. You just want to see the man come to church. You just want to see him subscribe to your invitation to go to the conference. But you ain't praying the right prayers yet. It's one thing for his flesh to be there and a whole nother thing for his mind to be there also. Except he's drawn by the Father, he can't come. He can't. Do you understand me? And that is why, for instance, when two people, let's say there is a Christian who has an interest in a non-Christian, it's best you live your life for Christ and you just wait on Christ and stop thinking about that person who is outside, because there's no guarantee that he'll be drawn anytime soon. Do you hear me? So when we say we're going to get married to the unbeliever, and then we're going to pray that he be baptized, and we're going to pray that God changes him, what a force. Many of us, for the sake of being married and for the sake of pleasing people in churches, we run to get the unsaved baptized, but him not baptized in him heart. Him get dipped in that water, but him heart not dip yet. He went in there dirty and he comes out dirty because he ain't changed. And then when we start to have issues now, then we start to blame it on who? God? No. Got to blame it on yourself. The man was never saved. If God don't draw that person, no matter, you could have plead with him some more. You could have begged him some more. He ain't going to come. And even if you do see him make a step or two, it's just to impress you. His heart is not in it. And we don't serve God with our flesh. We serve him in spirit and in truth. It must come from our hearts. Do you hear me? So I want to encourage you, it can happen that the person needs to be prayed for. And I'm speaking especially to those of you who were already yoked to your spouse. You were yoked, and after your yoking, God touched you, you got saved, but the other person is still unsaved. God can touch him too, just like he touched you. But you see, if you're not yoked yet, and you are saved, and you like that person there who not yoked, or who is unsaved, Tony not married yet, leave it alone. Okay, you don't know the timing of the Lord. You don't know when he'll be drawn, because maybe you don't have the patience to wait that long, or if he'll be drawn at all. Because the Lord knows already whether or not people are going to receive him, He already knows whose hearts will receive him and who will never, ever accept him. He knows. You don't think he knows? I'm telling you, he knows. He knows those of us who will be saved. He knows those who will refuse him, who will be preached to, ministered to, who will see miracles in their own lives, who will receive of healing, etc., but they'll still never receive him. He already knows. So since you don't know, the best thing to do is to concentrate on him, worship him, focus on your assignment, and forget about those things over which you have no control. Do you hear me? So, wives, I know that it's very frustrating to feel like you're carrying the spiritual burden alone. You would prefer to show up in church with your husband next to you, just like you see with your other church sisters. You feel bad when you show up by yourself. It's okay. At least you're there. You're not where you once used to be. Now, if God could do it for you, he can do it also for your husband, but make sure you're praying the right prayers. Know what you're saying to God. Know what you're asking him to do for you in prayers. Be very strategic. Be wise when you're praying. Some of us have not started to pray the prayer yet that we actually need to pray to get things started, to kickstart the process. We're jumping the gun. The first prayer you need to pray, and earnestly pray on that point until you see results, is, Lord, turn the heart of my husband so that he can receive you. Don't stop praying it until God touches his heart. I've seen God do it many times. If he can do it for others, he can do it also for you. God bless you, family. Bye-bye.